10 years ago, I was in a place some of you may have been before, listening to a physician tell you that your loved one will never leave the hospital. In this case, it was my father who had suffered a stroke some days before. But as devastating as that news was, all I could think of was, what will we do with Mother? What do you do with a 77-year-old, demanding, self-focused widow who has never lived independently? The next morning, my husband turned to me without knowing my musing the day before and said, she needs to move in with us. And that had been my first, though hesitant, thought. She needs to move in with us. And thus the journey began. Was this our plan? Hardly. I thought that after raising 5 boys, I was done with diapers. And we were already looking down the road with great expectation toward professional opportunities, grandchildren, and adventure trips. The past 10 years haven't unfolded exactly the way I'd pictured. However, as I look back on all the decisions my family has made, this may have occasioned the most growth for me. So I'd like to share with you 3 unexpected treasures I've encountered as we have embraced the counterintuitive thought that the best way to gain your life is by losing it. Unexpected treasure number 1, the relief of forgiveness. When my mother moved in, her health deteriorated to the point that she relied on us for almost all her basic functioning. There's something strange about taking care of an adult the way you would a small child. I would serve my mother for hours a day, but was surprised not to feel any more tenderness toward her. Caring for her became a burden, and I sensed resentment not just for what was happening in the moment, but from years of unresolved issues that had come before. So, with my mother laying pitifully in my bed in my own home, I realized I need some way of addressing the acrimony that was present. It became clear to me the way to deal with that was through forgiveness. As one who embraces a faith tradition that's based on my own need for forgiveness, how could I withhold this from her? Granting it was liberating. Seeking it was life-changing. I remember the day I responded to one of her fiery criticisms with a little of my own heat. I stormed out of the house and began walking furiously. Regardless of her behavior, mine had been uncompassionate and insensitive. But do I really need to apologize? Why is seeking forgiveness so hard? It's risky. I might lose my edge in the relationship. It's humbling, seeking forgiveness from the one whose meals I prepare and body I bathe. It's restorative, necessary to preserve one of the most important relationships in my life. It's redemptive for me, the one who thought she was independent. I returned to her room and uttered those now easier words, "I'm sorry. Will you forgive me?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and as she said yes, she quickly asked me to do the same. Thinking this was an extraordinary moment, neither of us said anything, and then the silence was interrupted. "Now bring me a piece of chocolate cake, and I want the biggest one." But this time, the surge of bitterness wasn't there. The way I saw my mother began to change. I no longer held the past against her. There's a great line by a writer named Anne Lamott. Not forgiving is like drinking rat poison and waiting for the rat to die. But on the other side, uttering those healing words, "Will you forgive me?" triggers a release of new life and shifted expectations. Unexpected treasure number 2, a new kind of hospitality. As much as I've personally learned on this journey, our home has been transformed by embracing a different kind of hospitality. Because of the joy that it brings my mother, now from spending time with other people, we chose to invite them to be part of our lives. Rather than attempting, though, to create the perfect home where our guests are served and entertained, we're learning to welcome them into our messy lives where they may join us and be affirmed by participating in her care. For decades, we have appreciated the opportunity to bring teenagers and young adults into our home to live for periods of time. Whether they're Teach for America teachers, med students on rotation, or a motley assortment of people who need to experience family in a way unknown to them. Since Mother's coming, we've been even more intentional. This story, it seems, is best lived out with others coming alongside us, if only to visit or sing with her, or just sit and hold her hand. Several years ago, my husband started a little Bible study with several disabled friends in our community. Now, every Monday night, 6 to 8 men file in the front door and go upstairs to my mother's room. There, gathered around her bed, they play and sing music as best they can, and share and pray together. Her room has become a place where Down syndrome or autism doesn't prevent you from experiencing the joy of meaningfulness to another. This could have easily been one of the darkest times in our lives. Thanks to the steady stream of friends who often come back just to see Mother, it has been one of the brightest. Which brings me to my final unexpected treasure, the joy of dependence. Providing care for an aging parent in your home has compelled me to challenge the way our society views dependence. Though our American heritage touts the merits of robust individualism, this experience has reminded me we all rely on others in so many ways. For our words, our ideas, our orienting stories, no less than our own care at the bookends of life. Though we may imagine ourselves as solitary achievers who are where we are by virtue of our abilities and willpower, we would be remiss by overlooking our dependence on individuals and groups who have significantly contributed to our identity and success, not the least of which, of course, is the Morehead-Cain Foundation. When I gave the class president's address to my graduating class in 1979, I never imagined that a significant part of my life would be to walk away from straightforward ambition and predictable success. It turns out, though, that these past years have been some of my best, simply because I don't have to follow the script of self-promotion. Instead, I'm learning to grow and serve people right in front of me. I've learned I'm dependent on others just as my mother is on me. So while I pray for you health and success going forward, in the challenge that I'm living in, I challenge you to find the people you're called to love, to serve with openness and vulnerability, and to let in others so they may grow and benefit from what you're going through. And in case you find yourself bored or curious, feel free to join Jimbo and me in our home for a family meal. We'd love to introduce you to one of my best friends, my mother. Oh, and don't forget to bring the chocolate pie.